Hannibal, the tragic hero of Carthage. Chapter 1. The Legacy of Carthage. Hannibal Barca was born into a world simmering with conflict and ambition. Carthage, his birthplace, was a mighty city-state in North Africa, a wealthy and powerful Mediterranean trading empire. But this prosperity came with fierce competition, and none was greater than Rome, the growing power to the north. Hamilcar Barca, Hannibal's father, was a general who had fought bitterly against Rome in the First Punic War. His hatred for Rome was legendary, and as he gazed upon his young son, Hamilcar's ambitions took root. "Swear to me," he said, kneeling before Hannibal, "that you will forever be an enemy of Rome." The young boy, wide-eyed and solemn, swore that oath. From that moment on, Hannibal was bound by fate to be Rome's greatest adversary. Chapter 2. Rising through the ranks. Hannibal's military training began early. His father took him to Spain, where Carthage was expanding its empire. Here, Hannibal learned the art of war. He became a master of strategy, tactics, and the ways of battle. By the time he was in his mid-20s, Hannibal had already established himself as a formidable warrior and commander. At the age of 26, Hannibal took command of the Carthaginian forces in Spain. His first major campaign was the capture of Saguntum, a Roman ally in Iberia. This bold move defied Roman authority and sparked the Second Punic War. It was the beginning of a titanic struggle that would define Hannibal's life. Chapter 3. The Legendary Crossing of the Alps. What followed would become one of the most legendary feats in military history: Hannibal's march across the Alps. His plan was audacious. Rather than meet Rome on the open battlefield in Spain or North Africa, Hannibal decided to take the fight directly to Italy. With a force of around 50,000 soldiers, 9,000 cavalry, and 37 war elephants, Hannibal embarked on the grueling trek. The Alps were a formidable natural barrier. Towering, snow-covered peaks, treacherous passes, and the constant threat of ambush. His army suffered terribly from the cold, hunger, and attacks by hostile tribes. Thousands perished, but Hannibal pressed on, driven by his burning hatred for Rome. When he finally emerged on the other side, Hannibal had lost nearly half his men, but he had achieved the impossible. Rome was shocked to learn that the Carthaginian army stood at the gates of Italy. Chapter 4. The Battle of Cannae. Hannibal's genius as a military commander reached its peak at the Battle of Cannae in 216 BC. Here, he faced a Roman army nearly twice the size of his own, led by the Roman consuls. The battlefield was vast, a flat plain perfect for the Roman legions to unleash their superior numbers. But Hannibal had a plan. He deployed his troops in a crescent shape, with his weakest infantry at the center and his strongest cavalry on the flanks. As the Romans advanced, they eagerly pressed into the Carthaginian center, believing they were breaking Hannibal's line. But it was a trap. Hannibal's flanking forces circled around the Roman legions, encircling them completely. The Romans were trapped, unable to escape as Hannibal's forces closed in from all sides. It was a slaughter. Over 50,000 Roman soldiers were killed, making Cannae one of the bloodiest battles in ancient history. Rome was shaken to its core. Hannibal had dealt them a devastating blow, one that would haunt the Roman psyche for generations. Chapter 5. The Long Struggle. Despite his brilliant victories, Hannibal was unable to deliver the final blow to Rome. For over a decade, he waged war in Italy, defeating Roman armies time and time again. Yet, the Roman spirit of resistance proved unyielding. The city of Rome itself, with its massive walls and loyal citizens, was a fortress that even Hannibal could not breach. Meanwhile, Rome adapted. Under the leadership of Fabius Maximus, they employed a strategy of attrition, avoiding direct conflict with Hannibal and cutting off his supply lines. It was a frustrating, slow grind that wore down Hannibal's forces. Carthage, across the sea, provided little support. The political situation back home was in turmoil, and Hannibal was left to fight the war in Italy largely on his own. Chapter 6. The Final Defeat. As the years dragged on, Rome rebuilt its strength. Under the leadership of the brilliant General Scipio Africanus, the Romans struck back. Scipio launched a daring campaign into North Africa, forcing Hannibal to abandon Italy and return to defend his homeland. The two titans of war finally met on the plains of Zama in 202 BC. Scipio, having studied Hannibal's tactics, was ready for him. Hannibal fought fiercely, but his once great army was a shadow of its former self. The Roman legions were disciplined and well-prepared. Hannibal was defeated. The Second Punic War ended with Carthage's surrender. Rome imposed harsh terms, reducing Carthage to a second-rate power. Hannibal, once the scourge of Rome, became a fugitive. Chapter 7: The Exile and the End. Hannibal spent his final years in exile, moving from one foreign court to another, always pursued by Roman agents. He tried to inspire new resistance against Rome, but his time had passed. The world had changed, and Rome was now the unchallenged master of the Mediterranean. In 183 BC, at the age of 64, Hannibal took his own life rather than be captured by the Romans. His death marked the end of an era, the last great challenge to Roman dominance. Epilogue: The legacy of Hannibal. Though he lost the war, Hannibal's legacy endured. He was remembered not just as a brilliant commander, but as a symbol of defiance against overwhelming odds. The Romans themselves came to admire him, even as they feared him. His tactics would be studied for centuries, inspiring generals from Julius Caesar to Napoleon Bonaparte. Hannibal's life was a tragedy, not because of his failures, but because he came so close to success. Had the winds of fortune blown slightly differently, the history of Rome and the world might have been forever changed. Hannibal Barca's destiny was shaped long before he was born. Carthage, a mighty city of sprawling harbors, bustling markets, and towering walls, was the crown jewel of North Africa. Situated on the northern coast, Carthage had become a wealthy empire through its dominance of Mediterranean trade. Its ships sailed from Spain to the Levant, bringing back riches that filled its coffers. But the city's wealth also made it a target. Rival powers, jealous of Carthage's success, constantly sought to challenge its authority. Carthage's greatest rival was Rome, a city-state that had risen from a small kingdom to a formidable republic. The two powers had already clashed once in the First Punic War, a brutal conflict fought primarily at sea. Carthage, despite its naval superiority, lost. The defeat was a bitter pill to swallow. Rome took control of Sicily, and Carthage was forced to pay a heavy tribute. But this loss didn't extinguish Carthaginian pride or ambition. It only stoked the flames of revenge, especially in the heart of one man, Hamilcar Barca. Hamilcar, Hannibal's father, was a respected general. His hatred for Rome was not just political, it was personal. As a boy, Hannibal often heard his father speak of the treachery and cruelty of Rome. Hamilcar's eyes would burn with fury as he recounted the losses Carthage had suffered, and Hannibal, eager to please his father, absorbed every word. The moment that would shape Hannibal's entire life came when he was just 9 years old. Hamilcar prepared to leave for Spain to expand Carthage's empire there, and as he stood on the steps of the great temple of Baal, he turned to his son. "Come here, boy," he said. Hannibal obeyed, stepping forward. Hamilcar knelt beside him, his voice soft but firm. "Place your hand on this altar," Hamilcar instructed. Hannibal hesitated for a moment but did as he was told. The temple was silent, save for the crackling of the flames. "Swear to me," Hamilcar said, his voice low, almost a whisper. "Swear before the gods that you will never be a friend to Rome." Hannibal's heart raced. He was too young to fully understand the gravity of the oath, but he could feel its weight pressing down on him. "I swear," Hannibal said, his voice shaking. Hamilcar smiled, satisfied. From that day forward, Hannibal's life was dedicated to the destruction of Rome. The oath he had taken bound him not just to his father's cause, but to a destiny that would drive him to the ends of the earth. Chapter 2: Rising through the ranks, expanded. Hannibal's early years were spent in Spain, where he learned the art of war from his father and the seasoned generals of Carthage. Spain was a land of opportunity for Carthage, rich in silver and strategically important. Hamilcar's campaigns there were not just about conquest. They were about laying the groundwork for a future war with Rome. Under his father's tutelage, Hannibal mastered the tactics of warfare. He learned how to maneuver troops on difficult terrain, how to exploit the weaknesses of the enemy, and how to use deception to achieve victory. He also developed a deep understanding of logistics, a skill that would serve him well in his later campaigns. Hannibal's education wasn't limited to the battlefield. He was also trained in diplomacy, learning how to negotiate with local tribes and build alliances. His ability to win the loyalty of diverse groups would later be crucial to his success in Italy, where he would rely on the support of local peoples to maintain his campaign against Rome. When Hamilcar died, drowned in a river while on campaign, command passed to his son-in-law, Hasdrubal the Fair. Hannibal, still young but already showing signs of his father's brilliance, served as one of Hasdrubal's key commanders. Over the years, he built a reputation as a fearless warrior and a cunning strategist.